and welcome to Sports 101, the show that discusses sport beyond the X's and O's. Here at Sport 101, we like to expand our conversation of sport to include the history, past, present, as well as in the making. We like to look at the game from a people, places, and cultural perspective. I'm your host, Jamar Harp. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Coach_Harp412 and Facebook under Jamar Harp. Make sure you get social with Sports 101 and a litany of other SportsZone Chicago shows by following SportsZone Chicago on Twitter at SportsZone CHI, Facebook at SportsZone Chicago, and Instagram at SportsZone Chicago. Remember, SportsZone Chicago is the only Black-owned sports talk app in the world. You can watch and listen to my show as well as many others. Keep up with breaking sports news. And if you miss something, you can listen to a podcast or watch via YouTube, search Sports Zone Chicago. But more importantly, we want you to download the Sports Zone Chicago app. The Sports Zone Chicago app can be found in the Google, iTunes, and Amazon Play stores. Now I'd like to discuss what we're going to be talking about this week. And our topic is the European Super League, a case study and analysis. If you don't know, soccer is more commonly known as association football, and it's played approximately by 250 million players in over 200 countries and dependent territories. That makes it the world's most popular game. Football is governed internationally by the International Federation of Association Football, more commonly known as FIFA. Its French designation is Fédération Internationale de Football Association. FIFA organizes World Cups for both men and women every 4 years. The men's FIFA World Cup has taken place every 4 years since 1930, with the exception of 1942 and 1946. Those tournaments were canceled due to World War II. Approximately 190 to 200 national teams compete in qualifying tournaments within the scope of continental confederations for a place in the World Cup finals. The finals tournament, which is held every 4 years, involves 32 national teams competing over a month period. The most prestigious competition in European club football is the UEFA Champions League and the UEFA Women's Champions League, which attract an extensive television audience throughout the world. The final of the men's tournament has been in recent years the most watched annual sporting event in the world. The top 5 European men's leagues are the Premier League, which is in England, La Liga, which is located in Spain, the Bundesliga in Germany, Serie A in Italy, and League One, which is in France. Attracting most of the world's best players, each of the leagues has a total wage cost in excess of 600 million, 700 or 1.8 billion dollars. The first figure was in euros. Now let's look at English football. Association football, as it's commonly known in England, is the most popular sport in England, where the first modern set of rules were established in 1863. With over 40,000 association football clubs, England has more clubs involved in football than any other country, as well as the world's first club, which is Sheffield Football Club. The world's oldest professional association football club is Notts County. The oldest national governing body is the English Football Association. The joint first national team, the oldest national knockout competition, is the FA Cup, and the oldest national league is the English Football League. Today's England's top domestic league, which is known as the Premier League, is one of the most popular and richest sports leagues in the world, with 6 of the 10 richest football clubs in the world as of 2019. The England national football team is only one of the 8 teams to ever win the prestigious World Cup title, having done so once in 1966. A total of 5 English club teams have won the UEFA Champions League, also known as the European Cup. The first written evidence of football comes in the year 1170, when there were some travelers that noted that after dinner, country youth would go out in the fields for a popular game of ball. They would have different teams based off of age, their trade. Their fathers or uncles might have a team. And then wealthy men on horseback would stop and watch them play this game where they kick the ball around in the dirt. Um, the youth became very popular about this, and hence football, spread throughout England. In other episodes, we've talked about the African origins of football that come from Angola during the Papal Bull of Demarcation around the 1490s, where the Catholic Church split the world in half, and conquistadors came and kidnapped Africans from Angola and took them to Brazil, which basically started the Brazilian football legacy. In 1314, King Edward II said football and the use of footballs creates a uprising in the public, and evil comes from that. So he actually banned football. Account of exclusively kicking football games first came from Nottinghamshire in the 15th century, and that's where your first association of football comes about in England. By the 16th century, however, references to organized teams begin to appear. There is evidence for this because a team became in English schools around 1581. The 18th century Gymnastics Society of London was arguably the first club in Europe. The league then expanded over the next 25 years as football boomed in England from one division of 12 clubs in 1888 to two divisions by 1892 and 1893, with a total of 28 clubs and a gradual addition of more clubs, a total of 40 by 1905. Um, Now, let me kind of educate you more on the Football Association. Now, let's compare this to baseball and the minor leagues, as well as Major League Baseball. The Football Association, better known as FA, is a governing body of football in England. It also governs the dependencies of Jersey, Guernsey, and the Isle of Man. The Football Association was formed in 1863 and is the oldest football association in the world, and is responsible for overseeing all aspects of amateur and professional game in these territories. The Football Association also sanctions all competitive football matches within its remit at the national level, indirectly at the local level through county football associations. So just think of like Little League Baseball as a governing body, and it has teams all throughout the United States that have to register with Little League Baseball. It also runs numerous cup competitions, the most famous being the FA Cup. Football Association is also responsible for appointing the management of the men's, women's, and youth national teams of the country. So if you look at this first pick here, this is a picture of the FA Challenge Cup. This is the trophy that you win if you go through the Football Association tournament. And the Challenge Cup is the annual knockout competition for domestic football in England. It was first played during the 1871-72 season and is the oldest national football competition in the world. Since 2015, it's been known as the Emirates FA Cup, taking a corporate sponsorship. A concurrent women's tournament is also held, which is called the Women's FA Cup. The competition is open to any eligible club down to level 10 of English football. Obviously, level 1 would be the Premier League. All 92 professional clubs in the Premier League, which are level 1, and the English Football Association Football League, which is levels 2 to 4, and several hundred non-league teams in steps 1 through 6 of the National League system. So that'd be levels 5 through 10. So that's basically, if you think of baseball, any club from the major leagues always down to the Grapefruit League, or even some college teams will be eligible to play in the so-called FA Cup. Entrants are not seeded, although a system of buys is based on the league, based on what league you're in. So obviously the Premier League teams, you don't see them in the early rounds. The minimum number of games needed to win is depending on which round that you enter the competition, and that can range from round 6 to 14. The first 6 rounds will be the qualifying competition, in which 32 teams progress to the first round of the competition proper, meaning the first of 48 professional leagues from League 1 and 2. The last entrants are obviously the Premier League teams and championship teams, which is the AAA version of football in England. And they usually come in the third round. In the modern era, only one non-league team has ever reached the quarterfinals, and teams below level 2 have never reached the final. As a result, significant focus is given to the smaller teams who progress furthest, especially if they achieve a so-called giant-killing victory. Winners again receive the FA Cup trophy, of which there's been two designs and five actual cups. The latest is a replica of the first cup introduced in 1911. Winners also qualify for the Europa League, which is a league below the Champions League, and the upcoming FA Community Shield, which is another um, sort of competition within English football. Arsenal is the most successful club with 14 titles, and their skipper, Arsene Wenger, is the most successful manager, having won 7 finals. Arsenal are the current holders. They beat Chelsea last year 2-1. So again, we've been talking about English football. I would like to describe their pyramid to you. The English Football League system, also known as the football pyramid, is a series of interconnected leagues for men's association football clubs within the country of England and its protected territories. They also include 5 teams from Wales, one from Guernsey, one from Jersey, and one from the Isle of Man also compete within the football pyramid. The system has a hierarchical format with promotion and relegation between leagues at different levels. So what that basically means is I can be a top AAA team, and if I win, I can move to the major leagues. And if I'm a bottom major league team, I can be pushed to AAA. Again, that's relegation and promotion. So theoretically, the smallest club can rise through the ranks and win a championship. If you look at pick 2 right here, this is an example of the English football pyramid. And we'll go, if you look at the top, you see the Premier League. Underneath them is level 2, which is the league championship. That'll be AAA. The third level will be AA, fourth single A, and then the fifth level on will be your grapefruit leagues, colleges, and some local teams from neighborhoods that actually, if they can get some funding, can play for the English within the English pyramid. There are more than 140 individual teams and 480 divisions. So this is a lot of football going on. The exact number of clubs varies from year to year as clubs join and leagues leave. Some people may merge, others may fold due to economic crisis. So it always varies. There's an estimated average of 15 clubs per division. That implies that more 7,000 teams of nearly 5,300 clubs or members of a league system within England. The world's first association football league was just basically called the Football League, and that came in 1888 by Aston Villa director William McGregor. It was dominated by those clubs who supported professionalism, meaning proper training, conditioning, really using tactical schemes instead of just playing, wide open football. The 12 founding members were 6 from Lancashire, that's Accrington, Blackburn, Barnsley, Bolton, Everton, and Preston North End, and 6 from the Midlands area of England, which include Aston Villa, Derby County, Notts County, Stoke City, West Bromwich Albion, and Wolverhampton. The system contains a pyramid of leagues and are bound together by the simple concept of promotion and relegation, meaning the more you win, the higher you move up and the more revenue you get, so you can get better players and hopefully achieve moving all the way up into the Premier League. 10 years ago, Manchester City was in the bottom levels of the English football system, and now they're known as a super club. So that just goes to show you what can happen in 10 years' time. In addition to sporting performance, promotion is usually contingent on meeting other criteria, such as appropriate facilities and having the finances. So again, in theory, it's possible for a local amateur club, a neighborhood team, to achieve promotion within a few years, rise to the pinnacle of the English football pyramid, which is the Premier League. And again, Manchester City accomplished this 10 years ago. While this is unlikely, there's certainly significant movement within the pyramid each year. The top 5 levels contain one division each, and they're nationwide in scope, meaning people look at them all the time on TV and social and print media. Below this, there's smaller levels that are progressively more parallel leagues, and they have smaller geographic areas of coverage. The 6 levels immediately below the Premier League are 3 levels of English football known as the National League system, and they come under the jurisdiction of the Football Association as well. In May of 2014, the Football Association announced provisional plans for a new division between the English Football League and National Football League, which includes B teams of higher clubs. So basically, they would take the, let's say, Manchester United, B team, and create another league, trying to get these people more competition. This idea was later reneged on the plan, and shortly thereafter scrapped. The English Football League does not include the amateur version of the game called Sunday football, and we'll kind of talk about that a little later. These leagues are independent entities with no promotion or relegation involving the football pyramid. We're referring to Sunday league teams. These are basically like your weekend softball teams. There are also some Saturday leagues which are not part of the pyramid, although teams leave and enter the pyramid again based off finances. So the Saturday league team, that's what we're going to talk about later, the Southeast Dons, is making a lot of noise and notoriety via social media, so they may be prepped to do that. Here's a picture of the Southeast Dons, which was established in 2014, and the Southeast Dons are a Sunday league team in South London who gained fame and notoriety for their preparation, gameplay, and marketing. If you look at this quick video right here, you'll see some skills of the Southeast Dons. Now, remember, this is just a neighborhood team. So if you could play this video, Greg. Okay, so there was a video of the Southeast Dons. Again, that's just a local neighborhood team, and you can see the skill level there. Their founder used to be in the rap industry in South London, and he took his skill set to weekend football and begin to promote them as well as get the best players he could find, give them proper kits or uniforms, and try to make it look as professional as possible. So you can see that what a top weekend club looks like. And again, if they got more funding, they can move into one of the lower leagues, maybe League 7 or 8, and then get some better players and try to move to 6 or 5 and just keep working their way up to eventually the Premier League. So theoretically, the Southeast Dons one day could be in the Premier League. Again, let's look at the top of the English foot pyramid. At the top is a single division called the Premier League, which is often referred to top flight or level one. The Premier League consists of 20 clubs, all of which up to 2010 were based in England. Um, However, two Welsh teams, Swansea City and Cardiff City, have also been playing in the league. Below the Premier League is the English Football League, which will be Triple A, which is divided in 3 divisions of 24 clubs. The Championship League will be level 2, and League 1 will be level 3, and then League 2 will be level 4. The top tier of the non-league football is the National League, and the National Division, which will be level 5 and below, is again 24 clubs, and the lowest level is a single nationwide league. So this division, like the four above, is a full-time professional competition, although some promoted clubs retain part-time status, and that's due to funding. There are 2 divisions at level 6 covering the North, which is the National North League. Then they have one for the South with 22 clubs in each. Some of these clubs, again, are full-time and others are semi-pro based on their funding at that particular time. Below the National League, some of the stronger clubs are semi-pro, um, like the Southeast Dons. The lower league teams tend to cater to smaller geographic regions. So again, the Southeast Dons is located in one area within Southeast London, across the Thames River, and they only cater to that region. Now let's talk about promotion and relegation more, so you can better understand that, because again, that topic is not even considered in American sports. Again, the Premier League is level 1 and it has 20 teams. And at the end of each year, the bottom 3 teams are sent to the English League Championship. So the championship has 24 teams. So at the end of their season, the top 2 teams automatically get promoted to the Premier League. Remember, the goal is to get promoted to the Premier League because that's where you get millions of dollars for just being a member. You get television time, so you can improve your facilities as well as your talent to hopefully stay within the Premier League. And some teams are yo-yo; they bounce from the Premier League to the League Championship every other year. The next 4 teams in the League Championship, so that'd be teams 3, 4, 5, and 6. They compete in a playoff, with the winner gaining the third promotion spot. And the bottom 3 are relegated. Uh, the English Football League One, the top 2 are promoted to the Championship League, and the next 4 compete in the playoff. And then their bottom 4 are regulated. The same thing happens in League Two. The top 3 teams are promoted to League One, and the next 4 in a playoff. And the winner of the playoff gets the next promotion spot, and their bottom 2 teams are relegated as well. The National League, which is level 5, has 24 teams, and the champions are promoted. They have a 16 playoff, and then their bottom 4 are relegated to either North or South, and that's depending on where they're geographically located within England. The National League North and National League South have 22 teams each, and that's increased to 24 between 2021 and 22. And the champions in each division are promoted, and the next 6 teams are in the playoff, and the playoff winners in each division get the second promotion spot. And with the 4 teams qualifying for the National League in total, the bottom 2 teams are relegated to the Northern Premier League, the Southern League, or the Isthmian League. The salaries in these leagues very tremendous. In the Premier League, is a star player you can easily make more than $200,000 a week. Yes, that's $200,000 a week. The championship league around $350 yearly. League One around $70,000 yearly, and League Two $40,000 yearly.
Right now, the COVID-19 vaccines are available to millions of Americans, and soon they will be available to everyone.
This vaccine means hope. It will protect you and those you love from this dangerous and deadly disease.
I want to go back to work and I want to be able to move around.
To visit with Michelle's mom, to hug her and see her on her birthday.
You know what I'm really looking forward to is going to opening day in Texas Ranger Stadium with a full stadium.
We've lost enough people and we've suffered enough damage.
In order to get rid of this pandemic, it's important for our fellow citizens to get vaccinated.
I'm getting vaccinated because we want this pandemic to end as soon as possible.
So we urge you to get vaccinated when it's available to you.
So roll up your sleeve and do your part.
This is our shot.
Now it's up to you.
Autism is a spectrum disorder. This means it affects each and every person differently. People with autism explore the world in unique ways. It's time to start seeing autism from a new perspective. I'm Megan Sinisi, Miss Central Pennsylvania, asking you to pledge to be an acceptance ambassador today at FromANewPerspective.org. With your help, we can inspire a community of inclusion for the 3.5 million Americans living with autism.
Accept, respect, and power.
Welcome back. I am Jamar Harp, and this is Sports 101, the show that discusses sport beyond the X's and O's. We talk about the game from a people, places, and cultural perspective. We also look at sport through the lens of history in the past, present, as well as in the making. Again, make sure you get social with Sport 101 and the SportsZone Chicago litany of shows by following us on Twitter at SportsZone CHI, Facebook at SportsZone Chicago, and Instagram at SportsZone Chicago. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, search SportsZone Chicago, but more importantly, download the SportsZone Chicago app. The SportsZone Chicago app can be found in the iTunes, Google Play, or Amazon stores. Now let's continue with our conversation in the Premier League and the European Super League, the rage of last week. The competition was founded as the FA Premier League on February 20th, 1992, following the decision of clubs in the Football League First Division to break away from the Football League, which was founded in 1888, and take advantage of a lucrative television rights deal. The deal was worth around $1 billion a year domestically as of 2013 or 14, with Sky Sports and the BT Group securing the domestic rights to broadcast 116 teams and 38 leagues or divisions, respectively. The league is a corporation in which the member clubs act as shareholders and generate $2.2 billion per year in domestic and international television rights. That's just television rights, so that's $2.2 billion. That's what the clubs split up. Clubs are apportioned central payment revenues of $2.4 billion in 2016-17, with a further $343 million in solidarity payments to English Football League clubs. So out of that money that they had, they took $343 million and sent it down the pyramid. The Premier League is the most watched sports league in the world, broadcast in 212 territories and countries to 643 million homes, and has a potential audience of 4.7 billion people. The English top flight has produced the second highest number of UEFA Champions League teams, as well as European Cup titles, with 5 English clubs having won 13 European trophies in total. In the late 1980s, that marked a low point for English football. Stadiums were crumbling. The infrastructure wasn't quite there. Again, the television deals weren't in place. The hooligan culture was there with each club. So that basically meant there were supporter groups that would go just to fight people from the other club. And the English teams had been banned from European competition for 5 years following the Heysel Stadium disaster in 1985. The Heysel Stadium disaster was a human stampede within a soccer game that occurred on May 29th, 1985, where mostly Juventus fans were running from Liverpool fans who pressed them against a collapsing wall in Heysel Stadium in Belgium. And this was before the start of the 1985 European Cup final between Juventus and Liverpool. Unfortunately, 39 people, mostly Italians and Juventus fans, were killed, and 600 people were injured in this confrontation. If you look at this quick video, you can see kind of what happened at this Heysel disaster.
On the 29th of May 1985, British soccer hooliganism reached its all-time low. Liverpool supporters began a running battle against Italian followers of Juventus at the European Cup final in the Heysel Stadium in Brussels. The result was horrific. The press of bodies trying to escape from the violence led to the collapse of a safety fence. Many victims were trampled to death. Many more were crushed by the weight of their fellow supporters as they struggled in near panic to find a way out. There was great confusion as riot police tried to force their way into the ground to separate the fighting fans. They came up against those in the crowd who had nothing to do with the rioting. They just wanted to get out. Police and ambulancemen struggled to revive some of the victims as the chaos continued round the ground. In the stadium itself, the fighting went on, with flagpoles and metal bars used as weapons. Bottles, cans, pieces of concrete were hurled through the air. 41 Italian and Belgian spectators died. 350 were seriously injured. For many Europeans already shocked by the behaviour of British soccer fans abroad, this was the last straw. English football clubs were banned from playing in Europe indefinitely. Dozens of Liverpool supporters were arrested and subsequently brought back to Belgium to face trial. But at the time, as the rescue attempts continued, the principal reaction was bewilderment and disbelief.
It's a war scene. It's nothing other to explain. It's a war picture.
Not football, just war.
No, surely not.
The Prime Minister summed up feelings in general when she said those responsible had brought shame and dishonour to their communities and to British football. It must never happen again, she said.
Now, if you look at that video, most people think of fans in the United States. Most notable fan groups, maybe say the Steelers, the Raiders, maybe the Ravens. And everyone knows fan is short for fanatic, but I haven't never saw any fanatical fans like this in the United States that go and try to kill people and kill multiple people, which is an association of the hooligan culture within not only English football, but European football as well. So each club will have a supporter group, and the supporter groups obviously support and love the club. They'll go sing songs, support, make noise for the team. Also, each team will have a hooligan group that go to fight, and sometimes they are the enforcers for the supporter group. And then the hooligans will meet the other team's hooligan group and literally fight, like the Jets and the Sharks, classic, old school television. And this is pretty much standard in English football, except this day, obviously, they went too far and were banned from competition outside of England for 5 years. However, things kind of changed in the English FA system. And in the 1990 World Cup, England reached the semifinals. And since the last time they won in the 60s, that's the highest they ever got. UEFA, Europeans governing body, lifted the 5-year ban in 1990, resulting in Manchester United lifting the UEFA Cup in 91. During the 1980s, major English clubs began to transform and to be more business-like. They used commercial principles and club administration to maximize revenues, increase ticket sales, paraphernalia, and the clubs begin to operate more like what we see in the United States. Martin Edwards of Manchester United, Irving Scholar of Tottenham Hotspur, and David Dean of Arsenal were among the leaders in this transformation, which helped the clubs revitalize into modern-day clubs. The commercial imperative led to the top clubs seeking an increase in their power and revenue, and the clubs in Division One threatened to break away from the football league in general. Again, this is something that's not new. We just heard this last week. And in doing so, they managed to increase their voting power and get a more favorable financial arrangement, meaning they got 50% share of all the television and sponsorship income in 1986. They also demanded that television companies pay more for their coverage of football matches, and revenue from television grew in importance. Now, at this time, English soccer is not being broadcast in the United States as it is right now. So you can imagine how much more money is being dumped in the current day market. The Football League received $6.3 million for a 2-year agreement in 1986, but by 1988, in a deal agreed with ITV, the price rose to $44 million to broadcast the league with over 4 years, with the leading clubs getting 75% of the cash. So instead of having equal sharing of the television rights, which happens in most professional and collegiate associations in America, the top clubs got 75% of the money, and the 25% went to everyone else, which is basically a get richer situation. Each first division club received around $25,000 per year from television rights before 1986. This increased to $50,000 in 86 and around $600,000 to $800,000 in 1988. So you see how quick it's changing once sponsorship gets into play. The 1988 negotiations were conducted under the threat of 10 clubs leaving the former Super League, but they eventually persuaded to stay. And how did they do that? They get the top clubs a lion's share of the deal. So basically, the whole problem is the top clubs is similar to Title IX in collegiate sports, where the men's sports are asked to pay for a majority of the women's sports, and they don't think that's fair because they can use that money to be a better men's team when the men's market is so competitive, and particularly in football and basketball. The first sign of breaking the former Super League due to revenue again was 1988, not last week. By the beginning of the 1990s, the big clubs again considered the breakaway, especially now that they had to fund the cost of stadium upgrades. In 1990, the managing director of the London Weekend Television, Greg Dyke, he met with representatives of the 5 big football clubs in England, which were Manchester United, Liverpool, Tottenham Hotspur, Everton, and Arsenal over dinner. That meeting was to pave the way for a breakaway from the Football League. What Dyke believed is it would be more lucrative for the television company if only the larger clubs in the country were featured on TV, and he wanted to establish whether the clubs would be interested in a larger share of television rights. This larger share of television rights obviously would bring larger clubs from other countries, and it would just be one big super league. Sort of how, if you look at collegiate sports, in particular reclassifications of the Big 12, ACC, and SEC. The 5 clubs agreed with the suggestion, decided to press ahead. However, the league will have no credibility without the backing of the Football Association. So David Dean of Arsenal held a talk to see if the FA was receptive. The FA did not enjoy the amicable relationship with the Football League and considered it as a way to weaken the Football League's position. They released a report in June of 1991 the blueprint for future of football in England that supported the plan for the Premier League with the Football Association, the ultimate authority that will oversee that the breakaway league. So they said you can have a Premier League, but you just can't do a Super League with teams outside of England to make it more homogenous to the country. At the close of 1990-91 season, a proposal was on the table for the establishment of a new league that would bring in more money to the game overall. The founding members signed on July 17th, 1991, which would be the top flight clubs, and that was the establishment of the Premier League. The newly formed Premier League formed the top division and was commercially independent from the Football Association and the Football League, giving the Premier League license to negotiate its own broadcast and sponsorships agreements. So that's why we'll see the Premier League in the United States, but you won't see the Championship League and some of the other leagues. The argument given at the time was that the extra income would allow the English clubs to compete with teams across Europe, and they can send money down the pyramid. Dyke played a significant role in the creation of the Premier League. He had ITV, which was part of the LWT group, but they lost out in the bidding of broadcasting rights. Sky Sports actually won the broadcasting bid with a bid of $304 million, and this was in 1990 over 5 years. And the BBC is awarded the highlights package, which is called the Match of the Day. This is comparable to a network getting the NFL or NBA exclusively in the United States. The first club divisions resigned en masse from the Football League in 1992 on May 27th, and the Premier League was formed as a limited company outside of the Football Association. Working at an office at the Football Association's headquarters in Lancaster, the 22 inaugural members of the Premier League were Arsenal, Aston Villa, Blackburn, Chelsea, Coventry City, Crystal Palace, Everton, Ipswich Town, Leeds United, Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United, Middlesbrough, Norwich City, Nottingham Forest, Oldham Athletic, Queen's Park Rangers, Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday, Southampton, Tottenham Hotspur, and Wimbledon Football Club. Not tennis. There's a Wimbledon all in that area. So they have Wimbledon tennis, football, and basketball, actually. This meant that a breakup of the 104-year League Football Association that operated with 4 divisions, the Premier League will operate with a single division and the Football League with 3. The 2000s saw the dominance of these top teams like Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Manchester United. In the early 2000s, I was a fan of Chelsea. They had Drogba and Michael Essien, 2 of my favorite African players at the time. They now have Christian Pulisic from the United States, as well as N'Golo Kante. However, my team is Crystal Palace, which is located in South London. All of these teams finished at the top of the table for the bulk of the decade, guaranteeing qualification in the European Champions League. In May 2008, Kevin Keegan stated that the top 4's dominance threatened the division, and the league is in danger of becoming a boring but great league in the world. Why did he say that? Because he said the same teams keep winning. The chief executive of the Premier League, Richard Scudamore, said in defense, there's a lot of different tussles that go on in the Premier League each week, depending on if you're top, middle, or the bottom. So that makes it interesting, but a lot of fans didn't want to see the same teams winning. The year following 2009 marked a shift in the structure of the top 4, with Tottenham and Manchester City breaking in the top 4 on a regular basis, turning the top 4 into the Big 6. Off the pitch, the Big 6, they had significant financial as well as marketing power due to their success on the field. The clubs argued that they should be entitled to a greater share of revenue due to the greater stature of their clubs globally and the attraction they had from multiple countries throughout the world. Objectors argue that the egalitarian revenue structure in the Premier League helps to maintain a competitive league, which is vital for the future success. In 2016-17, Deloitte Football Monday's league report showed the financial disparity between the Big 6 and the rest of the Premier League. All of the Big Six had revenues greater than 350 million, with Manchester United having 676 million. Leicester City was the closest club to the Big Six in terms of revenue, recording 271 million for that season, and that was helped by participation in the Champions League. The eighth largest revenue generator, West Ham United, who did not play in any European competition, had a revenue of 213 million, which is half of the clubs within the fifth largest revenue, including Liverpool, who made 424 million. A substantial part of these revenues came from the television broadcast deals, with the biggest clubs taking 150 million to 200 million and 2016-17 for such deals. So the Big Six were getting 200 million in just revenue alone from television. So that allowed them to buy all these great players to make these super teams. Also in his 2019 report, the Big Six became the top 10, became members of the top 10 richest clubs of the world. The Premier League has the highest revenue of any football association, with a total club revenue of 2.4 billion in 2009-10. In 2013, due to improved television revenues, the Premier League collectively made a net profit in excess of 78 million, exceeding all other football leagues. If you look at the Premier League to any other professional league, the Premier League is the fourth wealthiest professional sports league after the NFL, Major League Baseball, and the NBA. Central payments in 2016 amounted to 2.3 billion across the 20 clubs, with each team receiving a participation fee of 35 million, and that's just for being in the league. Each team also got additional payments for television broadcasts, 1 million for broadcasts in the UK, 1.3 million for broadcasts in the UK of local games, and 39 million for overseas broadcasts. They also had commercial rights, which is a flat fee of 4.7 million, and a notional measure of merit, which is based upon final league position. So depending on where you finished, you could get more money. The merit component was a sum of around 2 million, which is multiplied by each finish in place counted from the foot of the table. So an example will be if you look at Burnley, who finished 16th in 2017, and if you did 5 places upward, you would do 5 times around 2 million, and you would get a $9 million merit payment. Again, the Premier League has the highest paid players this year. Doing the analysis of the highest paid players this year, the highest paid player was goalkeeper David De Gea of Manchester United, who made 19.5 million in 1 year in salary. Kevin De Bruyne, who was a midfielder for Manchester City, made 18.2 million in salary for 1 year. Raheem Sterling, who's pictured right here, is a forward for Manchester City. He made 15.6 million in salary in 1 year. Paul Pogba, who is pictured right here, is a midfielder from Manchester City, who made 15 million salary this year. Pogba is also the star for the French team, who won last year's World Cup. Anthony Martial, picture here, also made $13 million this year and is also a member of the French team. Sergio Aguero made 12 million for Manchester City. He's a striker. Mohamed Salah made another striker, made 10 million. Marcus Rashford from Manchester United made 10 million this year in salary. Harry Kane from Tottenham also made 10 million. And Tanguy Ndombele, the midfielder from Tottenham, made 10 million, as well as Andrew Lacazette, a striker from Arsenal, who's also played for the French team, made 9 million. So again, we just did the top 10 players in the Premier League. 6 of the highest paid players in England are of African descent, and 4 are on the French national team. And Ndombele is on the team as well too. If you remember the show we did on this, the French utilized their structure of colonialism to get players from a lot of countries in West Africa. This is the reason the Premier League is the best. Yet English national team suffers due to foreign talent being best in the Premier League. Now let's talk about the European Super League. Last week, a dozen of the world's richest and most storied soccer clubs on Sunday announced that they had formed a breakaway European club competition called the European Super League. If it had come to fruition, it will upend the structures, economics, and relationships that had bound global soccer for almost 100 years. After months of secret back-channel talks, the breakaway teams included Real Madrid and Barcelona in Spain, Manchester United and Liverpool in England, and Juventus and AC Milan in Italy. They were the first teams to confirm their plans Sunday. They also stated they wanted to add 3 more founding members midweek, and that will put the league in direct competition with the existing Champions League, and they wanted to begin play as soon as possible. We will help football at every level and take it to the rightful place in the world, said Real Madrid's president Florentino Perez, who was named the chairman of all the clubs who wanted to be members of the Super League. So I guess he was the Paul Tagliabue of the Super League. His idea was to break away from the Champions League format and create a league where the best teams will be seen on television regularly. Yes, the Champions League does put the best teams against the world against each other, however, or in the world against each other. However, they don't play till the middle or end. And a lot of the original Champions League teams or the beginning stages, some people say those games are boring and they don't attract the appeal as the big market teams. Perez and other founding members felt that the soccer is stagnant globally due to the best matches not being shown, and that was the hindrance of the current Champions League format. The league, they had agreed to form an alliance with the top clubs, and it was closer to a concept to a closed league like the NFL and NBA, where these clubs, where there would be no promotion or relegation. So if a team will become popular and they weren't in the Super League and they had like a real outstanding year, they had some slots they can add those teams. This would differ than soccer's current model, which were being restructuring of the elite European clubs. And this is the first time this happened since the 1950s. And it can herald a large transfer of wealth to a small set of teams, changing the scope of soccer in Europe, leaving a lot of have-nots out of the loop. In its current form, European soccer supplements domestic league play, and the English league for English teams. They have a Spanish league for Spanish teams, and so on. In a continental competition between the clubs, which is the Champions League, but the Super League would abolish all that. The most prestigious of these competitions, the Champions League, brought together again the best teams in Europe each year to play for the title. The current Champions League system funnels hundreds of millions of dollars of annual television and sponsorship revenue to the world's richest clubs, will supplement their domestic revenues with multi-million-dollar payouts from the Champions League. So again, they're getting richer with the Champions League, but they feel like they can get more money by doing a Super League. This format also sustains the smaller teams in each country because they benefit from the gloss of their encounters with the giants, and they also share money those teams bring in from the broadcasters. Again, this is similar to Title IX in collegiate sports. The new Super League model would change that by stripping the Champions League of its most attractive and successful teams and essentially walling off the richest clubs to their own competition and allowing them to split billions of dollars in annual revenue amongst themselves. The Super League made an announcement last week and said the founding clubs will split 3.5 billion euros. That's almost $4.2 billion just for becoming members. The per team figure each founding club was going to receive was about 400 million, and that's 4 times what the Champions League winner took home in 2020. The 12 teams that signed up initially were limited to a dozen clubs from Spain, Italy, and England. You had a large cohort of 6 teams from England, Manchester United, Liverpool, Manchester City, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Tottenham, and that devastated the English football community. Atletico Madrid, the other team in Spain, was said to have rumors to possibly want to join, while AC Milan and its rival Inter Milan will join Juventus as Italy's representatives if the Super League came off. The 3 more clubs would join as founding and permanent members, again, trying to have a 20-league Super League each season by adding adjacent teams that did well the previous year. They also wanted to start a women's Super League and presumably include the women's sides of the same clubs. European soccer officials worked quickly to block this, and the Premier League condemned it, the concept, and stated on Sunday they sent a letter to 20 clubs warning them not to take a part. This warning included UEFA, the European governing body, which runs the Champions League, and they labeled the proposal a cynical project in a statement which read, profoundly to all involved. It was co-signed by the Premier League, La Liga in Spain, and Italy Serie A, and each country's soccer federation. Within hours, the French Federation and the French League added their voice to the opposition of the Super League as well. Politicians begin to come into play now, including Britain's Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, as well as the French President, Emmanuel Macron, who weighed in to denounce the plans of the Super League. Fear was lost of the National League and system of relegation and promotion, which they had lived on for years. The European Super League will also take money from this pyramid structure. UEFA was taking the threat seriously. The leaders spent the weekend in discussions about how to block this. They came up with ideas such as banning the breakaway teams from playing in the Premier League or their individual domestic leagues, blocking players from playing for their national teams, and not letting them attend the World Cup if their nation made it. European officials also pointed and reminded the Super League clubs and their players that soccer's governing body, FIFA, had backed their threats of expulsion from the game. FIFA expressed its disapproval of the concept of the closed league, but refrained from the type of threats lobbied by other European officials. At the same time, soccer officials began to contact lawmakers at the European Union, hoping the bloc will be able to strengthen its hand in preserving the status quo. The leaders of the breakaway group have been trying to get other top teams like Germany's Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund and the French champion Paris Saint-Germain to commit. Their concerns were political and financial, as Paris Saint-Germain's president, Nasser El-Khelaifi, also sits on a UEFA board. He also has the BN Media Group, which is a part of BN Sports, the Qatar-based television network that paid millions of dollars for broadcast rights to games in the Champions League. So his allegiances through finances are actually tied to the Champions League. The timing of the event Sunday appeared designed to overshadow UEFA's plans to ratify the Champions League format on Monday, and the competition will be ravaged by, again, the departure of these big teams if they did withdraw. Without the top teams, UEFA and domestic leagues would face a demand for millions of dollars back and refunds for the broadcasters because, again, these deals were contingent on certain teams playing, and these broadcasters pay billions of dollars for television rights to air these tournaments as well as these league games. The clubs left out would face a blow to their budgets and wonder where would their sponsorship come from. And they also will wrestle with the financial wreckage caused by the coronavirus pandemic. On any ban on national level, that would also affect players individually if they had a role in decision making, where most players don't. Each of the would-be permanent members of the proposed Super League were promised 350 million euros to sign up, and a group leading the effort had entered into discussions with JP Chase Morgan to raise financing for the project. The fans in Europe, and particularly England, also blamed the American corporate structure and American greed for the Super League. Why did they do that? A lot of people don't know, but American investors own Arsenal, Crystal Palace, Fulham, Liverpool, and Manchester United, as well as Burnley. Liverpool was owned by John Henry and the Fenway Sports Group. They also have a celebrity owner in LeBron James. Manchester United is owned by the Glazer family, who also owns the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Arsenal is owned by Stan Kroenke, who owns the Los Angeles Rams, the Denver Nuggets, and the Colorado Avalanche of the National Hockey League. Manchester City is owned by Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan, who is the Deputy Prime Minister of Abu Dhabi, and AC Milan is owned by another American businessman, Paul Stenger. Inter Milan is owned by Chinese businessman Zhang Xindong. If you look at this video, we can also explain the outrage that these fans felt in regards to the Super League.
Get yourselves up, take that to me, we'll see.
The European Super League may have eaten humble pie this week, but it's these Manchester United fans that are left with the bitter aftertaste. The Glazer family, which owns United, rarely communicates with fans, but after apologising this week, it promised to rebuild trust.
That was the first time that Joel Glazer has communicated with United fans for 16 years. 16 years of nothing. They haven't been to a game since April 2019. They don't care. Empty words. He said we need to rebuild trust. There was no trust to begin with.
Trust is not enough. I understand it's more, there needs to be systemic changes to the way that clubs are owned across the whole country. Because it's not just Man United, it's not just the Glazers.
I've been following United since 1956. So you can guess my age. And it's about time that somebody spoke up about the parasites in this club.
United would have become one of 12 permanent members of the ill-fated European Super League, a breakaway competition from UEFA's Champions League. And Joel Glazer, who is the club's co-chairman, was set to become the new league's vice-chair. The fans here want a 50+1 ownership structure, which would give them control of the club through a voting majority. Commercial investors would still be able to make suggestions, but they'd need the fans' backing to get things done. It's a model that has worked for fans of Germany's Bundesliga giants. A man who knows all about the German model is Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp, who has backed his club's owners. One thing the supporters here seem to be happy about is the investment that the Fenway Sports Group has put into the club, enabling them at one point to buy what was the world's most expensive defender, and just a few months after that, the world's most expensive goalkeeper. In today's matchday programme, Liverpool's captain Jordan Henderson pleaded with fans not to fall out with the club's owners. The size of this crowd suggests many of them are listening. Sadia Chowdhury, Sky News.
Okay. All right, so thank you so much for enjoying that video. As you can see, the European fans' disappointment with the Glazer family and not being hands-on with the supporter group, as well as the community around Manchester United in general. A lot of these fans, as the gentleman said, have been following the team since the 1950s, and are used to a certain structure. And with these owners from different countries not coming in and being hands-on, as they claim the Glazer family, hasn't been to a game in over 10 years. They felt like that they were taking the team away from them in their certain English matchups. More to the point, a lot of fans said the teams were driven by greed. The only ones who stand to gain are the hedge funds, oligarchs, and a handful of already wealthy clubs, many which perform poorly in their own domestic leagues despite their inbuilt advantage. So a lot of people said that, yeah, you want to go to this Super League, but you're getting all this money and you still can't do anything in the Premier League, and your English national team sucks. So you're not competing with France or any of the major powers in world soccer. Local English fans also want to see classic English or domestic matches with rivals versus super matches on television each week. So they'd rather see Crystal Palace versus Everton instead of Paris Saint-Germain versus Arsenal. On Tuesday, Chelsea Football Club is set to begin the process of withdrawing from the newly formed Super League, which they did this Tuesday, and casting doubt on future of the universally loathed breakaway competition. Soon after Chelsea break off, the rest of the English clubs followed. The Super League said it will reconsider the most appropriate steps to reshape this project, because, again, the whole goal is to support English football to the point where they can compete not only in the highest level with domestic teams, but they want to increase the national team. Winning the World Cup brings a nation's prestige up, and as well as increased notoriety, not only financially, but within the soccer community, that allow you to get different advantages. The Super League was going to reshape this, though, and hopefully, they can come to a conclusion later on. And our final thoughts: in a global sports world, many teams who play opponents from other countries are faced with national elation or global influxes of cash. This cash comes at a price, as we see with the English teams that have went to outside ownership to increase their talent to win versus other countries' domestic leagues. Foreign owners infuse this cash to win and also secure bigger broadcasting deals to pay these larger salaries. So the fans must realize that if you want all these big-time players on the team, the ownership cannot do as they operated in the past. They must get a conglomerate of super players to beat these larger teams. Sometimes these owners have no allegiance to local rivalries. And if English Football League wants to improve internally, they need to do as France did. As we all know, France imported from its colonies in the Afro-Franco-linguistic regions of West Africa, and they nationalized all these citizens, so they were able to be dominant at the highest level of football, which is the World Cup. The Champions League also should take a structure more like the SEC instead of the Big 12. The SEC shares revenues equally, while the Big 12 uses a model similar to what Premier League is doing right now, where the top teams get more money. Also, another proponent would be to schedule more big money games to give the fans their local teams, but also infuse this cash with, as they say, classics on the FCS or HBCU level, or bowl games on the BCS level, because you need those big money games to bring in the money to increase your talent pool. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Sports 101. Again, I am your host, Jamar Harp. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Coach_Harp412 and Facebook under the name Jamar Harp. Make sure you get social with this show and the litany of SportsZone Chicago's other shows by following me on Twitter at SportsZone CHI, or SportsZone Chicago on Twitter, at SportsZone CHI, Facebook at SportsZone Chicago, and Instagram at SportsZone Chicago. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, search SportsZone Chicago, but more importantly, download the SportsZone Chicago app. The SportsZone Chicago app can be found in the iTunes, Google Play, or Amazon stores. Again, thank you for tuning in, and I'll gladly see you next week at our normally scheduled time, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. Again, this is another episode of Sports 101. We thank you, and we hope you support SportsZone Chicago. Have a blessed week, and I'll see you next week.